Thank you.
Well, there we have it, coming in stronger, best level since June 2011, as I said, but still 2.4 points below the level that we saw in February last year. So let's run through how close to your expectations or how far off this figure actually came in at.
Expectations have been difficult to develop this year because we expected to start on a stronger footing than we did in January. The January number, which was a decline of 2 points on the December number, was a very nasty surprise. So we see February as more a readjustment in line with our expectations. The February figure is now roughly in line with what we experienced in December, so the loss of January has now been offset. If one looks at the components of the BCI, positive news on the whole. We see that the financial components of the BCI have come on very strong, and they didn't do so well in the previous round. So that was the driver of the recovery in the BCI substantially. Also some good news on the real economy indicators, the indicators that look at real economic activity. Positive news on the export side, positive news on retail sales and construction. Although we've had good vehicle sales data come out, we do measure the performance of each of these indicators against its long-term trend. So vehicle sales not quite rearing its head above its long-term trend, but it's heading in the right direction, and that's the key message. We would like to see the real economy side strengthen more in the coming months.
If we compare things, that have come in on a month-on-month basis compared to year-on-year, what kind of scenario are we looking at?
If one looks at January, it was very bleak on the month-on-month basis. So February's picture is obviously going to look a lot better. And the indications that I've given you a short while ago about the financial services components looking very good, those are all month-on-month indications. On a year-on-year basis, also a very good picture emerging. Although we had a poor month-on-month data release in January, the year-on-year data wasn't too bad, and it's pretty much stayed constant. Slightly stronger in respect of some of the neutral indicators like exports and imports now turning positive on a year-on-year basis. But generally speaking, a fair balance between positives and negatives, with a slight bias on the positive
Of course, we've really focused on the support factors at this stage and what's come in as positives this time around. Where do some of those pressure points still lie, and where do your concerns still lie in that we're still looking at negative performances on those fronts?
Well, global performance is the ongoing risk, and that is why it was very pleasing to see on a year-on-year basis exports and imports turn positive as compared to the neutral reading that they rendered in the previous month. On the local business environment side, we still have some challenges that are being reflected, and this is particularly concerning for small and medium enterprises, where they find that the available infrastructure at the local level is insufficient to support current and future operations. So that has been an alarming trend for almost the last year. On a year-on-year basis, though, we are seeing a movement in the positive direction overall, especially on the real economy components, and that is the type of improvement we like to see. Although improvements on the financial components are welcomed, but it's the real economy components that give us hope for more sustainable recovery.
Having said that, I mean, although more year-on-year changes were positive, the rate of improvement still lagging the long-term performance trend of the economy. So business confidence is still failing to identify that real positive economic momentum. So to what extent do you get excited about this, and to what extent are you still worried? Because a lot of this hinging on global economic developments right now, and there we're standing on shaky ground with even China causing some concern this week.
Quite right. A number of previously strong countries with strong growth prospects now having to revise their growth prospects downward. That's quite concerning. But as a chamber, one has to look at the positive message in all of this. And the message for South African business remains that there are opportunities out there for us. We just need to be bolder and more aggressive about those opportunities. We also have to be more cautious about how we position ourselves competitively. So the type of mass action we're experiencing today is doing us harm. If global investors had to survey the world and look at the many countries that are desirous of capital or investment inflows, they're going to look very critically at the labor environment as well as other indicators. And what we're experiencing today is not sending the type of message that we wish to send to the world.
Of course, this in a context where we've got South Africa on the watch list of ratings agencies for a sovereign downgrade. So how do you see this, contributing to putting us more so on that radar screen and having that red light flashing?
The watch list indicated the performance of government as an issue, but we've seen Minister Godhan come out very strongly in his budget speech, and I think that could have done a lot to mitigate the risks that the agencies were concerned about. But of course, our economic outcomes are determined by an interaction between government, business and labor. So it's just a matter of time before the rating agencies take a more severe eye to the behavior in the labor environment, the performance of labor in terms of productivity. They've already looked at the labor relations framework and the rigidity of the labor market as factors that could weaken our economic performance. So we are now giving them reason to place us on the radar for an actual downgrade, more strongly so.
What is SACCI's view on, the kind of labour initiatives or the steps that are being taken to improve the labour environment in South Africa, and not only that, on the toll system as well, because those are effectively the two issues that stand front and centre of today's strike action, and SACCI has labelled it unconstructive and counterproductive, the way these issues are being handled right now. How do you take it forward?
Well, certainly on the labour broking issue, there is a negotiation process that's underway that has been in process for more than a year now. And we find that part of the reason why we're sending poor signals out to the rest of the world is because we strike too frequently and we strike too soon. A strike is fundamentally a bargaining tool from the point of view of labor, negotiation tool. And when we don't allow the processes of social engagement, the interaction between government, business and labor at NEDLAC and other fora to unfold in their due course, to although they are time consuming, to take the appropriate path and to realize an outcome that is in the best national economic interest. When we try to undermine those processes through these types of strategies, we're doing our country harm. On the toll side, there isn't a structured process in place, but we've seen government make many moves towards easing the burden on consumers. And they haven't closed the door to negotiation. So why don't we try that path before we take to the streets?